When I say the best decks, you're probably going to go straight to Dragapult and Gardevoir, decks like that, Decks that have had a proven track record, that are doing well, and are everywhere in the meta. Like, if we take a look at Gardevoir right now, it's got about a 20% meta in IRL tournaments. Same as Dragapult. Under that, though, that does have, like, a 13% meta share, so it's still quite a bit of meta share. And if we look at the top 10 decks, we see that it is very, very top heavy, mainly the Gardevoir, Dragapult, Goldengo, like the top 5, I'd say, are the very heavy ones, right? These are all the very played decks right now, and then underneath here you've got some lesser played stuff down to Zoroark, which is 2.52, right? So not the most played decks down there. However, today we're going to be talking about a deck that is in the bottom half of these decks, and it is a deck that has, in my opinion, a really good matchup against most, if not all, of the top 10 decks right now. So, maybe 9 of them. I feel like there's one that is definitely an outlier and is not very good. However, today we are going to be talking about none other. If you've looked at the tabs already, if you've been a little bit of a spy, we're talking about Enzoroark. Enzoroark, in my opinion, is one of the best decks right now, and let me sell you on it. Let me tell you why it is so good. My eyes look so dark, by the way. Look at that, bro. Looks like I've never slept in my life. Anyway, so why is Zoroark so damn good? Well, in my opinion, it's a very difficult deck to play. Let me wait. Give me a sec. I gotta go hit that. There we go. And then I can do this. And then I can do this. And then I'm big again. Just a rectangle. It's actually more of a square. Anyway, so this is the deck that Piper shout out Piper. This is the deck list that I think Zoroark should probably look like. It is really good. Definitely, probably the best Zoroark deck I have played. Shout out Gabriel Fernandez for the other lists that I've played before. And I have dabbled in some Zoroark. Zoroark is a guilty pleasure of mine. I really enjoy trading. I think it just takes me back to the days of announcing trade as well. And there is one glaring problem with this deck. It might not be this deck list, but I think with this deck. So, in my opinion, this deck is really difficult to pilot well. Like any deck in the game, anyone can pick it up and play it, but I think if you want to win, this is definitely a deck that you have to understand, like, the ins and the outs of. And I found that out by playing a tournament yesterday. I played 3 rounds, and I won all 3 rounds against Dragapult Dusknoir, against Theraledge, and against Grimmsnarl. And I think the deck does have the potential to be the best deck. It genuinely does. However, it is just really difficult because you have so many, like, options. You have so many lines, like the Yveltal attack, the Okidogi attack, the Pekarunt attack, the Reshiram attack, attacking with Backdraft, attacking with Flame Body Cannon, pivoting into Grasping Draw. Like, when do you actually start attacking? You have Binding Mochi for damage boosts. So there's a lot of really important things, and it's very resource-based. It's a very resource-heavy deck. For example, your energy counts is 6 dark, 1 reversal. Obviously, Zoroark requires 2 dark energy, so you have to basically manual attach twice. If you don't want to manual attach twice, then you've got 2 Enza power point up to attach from the discard pile to your benched Ends Pokemon. So, you have to make sure that you are keeping track of, like, where you put your air balloon. For example, usually some people, if they start Reshiram, they'll just slap an air balloon onto the Reshiram, where it's probably wrong. Usually, I would say you probably want to slap your air balloon onto a Zoroark, so that after you do use the Zoroark using something like a Flame Body Cannon discarding energy, you can just get straight out of that Pokemon into another Zoroark. Obviously, it is very situation and matchup dependent, but it is just, adding an extra layer of like, decision making. And another thing that you might think is, well, this is some very, very weird draw counts, and I would have to agree. Supporter counts, sorry. We've got 3 Cyrano, 3 Iono, 3 Boss's Orders, 2 Hilda, and 2 Professor Turo scenarios. So this is a very weird count of supporters, because if you think about it, you only actually have 3 draw supporters, right? You have 3 Iono, and it's not even really a draw supporter in that sense. It's more so disruption. That's how this deck uses it. 90% of the times, I'm not using Iono early. Iono is usually a card that is being played at the end of the game, paired with something like a Counter Catcher and a Team Rocket's Watchtower to stop cards like Pokemon like Dragapult from being able to have access to Ursaluna. and stuff like that, or Raging Bolt from having access to the knockdowns. So the supporter line can definitely be very sketchy if you aren't really used to it. Obviously, the Cyranos are there to grab your Zoroarks, your Fez, your Okidogi, your Peck. That's more. It's mainly for the Zoroarks and sometimes the Fez. The rest are all like nice additions that it can grab. And yeah, so the idea is you kind of just want to get a bunch of Zoruas out in the beginning of the game, and then next turn just rip a Cyrano, and then there you go. There's your draw support. Every turn you're drawing 6 cards, right? And not only are you drawing 6 cards, you're also thinning 3 cards from your hand, basically. Every time you announce trade, you're thinning your deck, which is really nice. You're drawing 2 cards, but also 1 card is going to the discard pile. For example, in some matchups, you won't need the Psyducks. If the Psyduck's in your hand, just trade it away. You don't need it, right? If you don't need Cleffa anymore, you just trade it away. That's another thing. Cleffa is super important. A lot of people have been asking me, like, oh, but do you actually use the Cleffa? Because lots of people don't use the Cleffa, and I think that's a big mistake. I think Cleffa is incredibly strong, and it really does help in the early game because you don't have like Arvens, you don't have Lilies, you don't have things that can just set you up like by just playing it, playing 1 Lilies, you get double puff and bam. This is your Lilies, this is your Arven, this is your like draw engine to set you up in the beginning of the game. We don't play Badoo because we don't have the luxury realistically of playing Badoo, because we usually 9 out of 10 games I'm probably going to Cleffa, right? I'm probably using Cleffa. Sometimes a mid-game Cleffa is also good when you don't actually want to swing into anything and just draw some cards. Cleffa is really good. Another thing that adds a lot of layers to the deck is the Yveltal, right? The Yveltal with Clutch paired with Pekkarunt, it gives you essentially infinite damage to use, because what will happen is you'll have, let's say, a N Zoroark in the active, or an N Zorua in the active. You'll have a Yveltal on the bench and a Peck on the bench. You'll have a Monkey on the bench. You'll use Peck to switch your Zoroark into Yveltal. Yveltal will now be poisoned, right? So every turn, in between turns, it's going to take 10 damage. So you can basically say it's going to take 20 damage, because every time it comes back into your turn, it's going to be on 20 damage. Obviously, if your opponent can't attack it, then it'll probably be more, or it'll die. But if they're stuck and they can't do anything, it'll be on 20 damage. And that means you get 20 damage to move with your Munkidori. So you're clutching for 20 in the active, right? Which is nice sometimes. Sometimes you don't really want to be doing 20 into the active, right? Sometimes that actually kind of hurts you. And then you get another 20 damage to move elsewhere. This is something very similar to what Gardevoir can do with their Frillish, right? If they have 2 Frillish on their bench, 1 Frillish in active, 1 Frillish on bench, they'll put 3 energy onto the active Frillish, right? They'll retreat into the other one. They now have 60 damage on this Frillish. If they have 2 Munkidori's on bench, they can move that 60 damage over to your opponent's side, and then wherever they want really, and then item lock with the next Frillish. And every turn they can do that. They can have 60 to move, 20 to active. 60 to move, 20 to active. Obviously, it's not as effective for us because we're only getting that 20 to move, but it is still a really cool way to do it. And also the thing is the Frillish isn't trapping, it's only item lock. So, and this is trapping. So, for example, yesterday, what happened in the Grimmsnarl matchup was I just kept trapping up monkeys, right? I would flood monkeys with damage, and then in one turn, I would just kill all of their monkeys, right? Flame Body Cannon is also a really, really nice attack against something like a Grimmsnarl. If they don't put, they're probably not going to put down the Shaman, because then I'm just going to trap the Shaman and kill it on the same turn that I want to use Flame Body Cannon. So it's not that big of a deal. And what happens is just you end up being able to take 3 to 4 prize cards in one turn. You can KO their Frostlass, you can KO their Munkidori's, and just a lot of stuff in the exact same turn, because they have no way to like pivot out of their active. They don't have something like a Pekkarunt, whereas you have Clutch, they can just trap stuff, and then you don't have to worry about their Grimmsnarl. The only thing you have to worry about is their monkeys, and usually you will be winning the monkey war in that case, because you're also doing 40 damage to their active monkey. They're going to take, let's say, 20 damage going back into that turn with the what is that thing called? The Frostlass. They're on 60 damage right now. If you have double monkey, you can kill a monkey in basically one turn, right? So every turn you can essentially kill a monkey, which is very strong. And obviously, if you do kill a monkey, it'll give them access to the Grimmsnarl. But the thing is, you can time it so that you kill the monkey during your turn. And during your turn, no matter what they promote, you can just use one of your 3 boss's orders into another Munkidori and just keep clutching, or something else and keep clutching. That is what is so nice about this deck, is you usually control what's going on the board state. You don't have these flashy attackers. Like, you don't have something that does 200 to the active and 60 to the bench. You don't have Gardevoir, which can balloon burst you for fucking 4 trillion damage, right? You don't have to do that. You have Virtuous Flame for 170. It's a modest attack. It's decent, right? You two-shot most things in the meta, and sometimes it's just not a bad attack. Like against, what is that thing called? Dragapult against Charizard, swinging 170 isn't horrible, right? It forces them to like actually swing back at you if they don't have a gust around it. And obviously Powerful Rage is just a very nice checkmate attack. Like you can set up a Zoroark, just one Zoroark. They can either gust around it for one prize card while you're two-shotting everything, or they can swing into your only Zoroark, not kill it, and then die the following turn. So what happens against Charizard very often is that they'll attack. I'll attack first maybe into a Charizard, or they'll attack whatever, and then there'll be, let's say I attacked first, 170 on a Charizard, because they didn't want to give me the one shot on the Charizard. 170 on Charizard, then they realize they do have to attack. So then they go 180 onto me, and then I go, alright cool, I'm going to boss up your Pidgeot, or boss up a Bench Zard, KO that thing, and then next turn, sure, you'll KO me, but I don't have to have Powerful Rage set up to knock out you, because you're already on 170 damage, right? So I'm going to be doing 340 with another attack, right? Another 170 plus 170 is 340, knocking that out. And if they do attack you first, well, then you could just one-shot this Charizard, right? And if they don't have another one established, well, boo-hoo, they have no Zard. So, very, like, it makes the game very awkward. It's similar to Dragapult, where it just makes the game very awkward for your opponent to actually find themselves and dig themselves out of these situations. Another thing is that you can get aggressive with this deck. Ends Darmanitan is here for much more than one reason. Like, Flame Body Cannon is a great attack and lets you get aggressive in the early game. Let's say, for example, like, think of it as a Water Pond. You can get aggressive. But why does this card help? Why is... You would look at this deck and think, alright, this is losing hard to Gholdengo and Ceruledge. You're wrong, actually. You're quite wrong. If Ceruledge has 9 energy in the discard pile, we are one-shotting them with Backdraft. Ceruledge has 270 HP. We are doing 30 damage for each energy in your opponent's discard pile. 9 times 30 is 270. We are one-shotting once they have 9 energy in the bin. How much are they doing with 9 energy in the bin, you'd ask? I think it's 220. I think it's 8, or is it 210? I think it's 210. It is 210 damage. They're not even one-shotting our Zoroark. They're doing 210 damage to our Zoroark. And if they're ever doing 210 damage to our Zoroark, well, Powerful Rage has a word to say to you, right? So it has a lot of pressure to put on. Like, oh, okay, I have to one-shot the Zoroark, but if I want to shot the Zoroark, then I'm going to be knocking out with Darmanitan. And then that's where the 2-1 line comes in, and it's really, really smart, because what you can do is you can continuously recycle this Darmanitan while always having a Darumaka on the bench. So you'll have this as the Darmanitan, and you'll have this as the Darumaka, right? And then this will die. Next turn, you'll Night Stretcher that guy back, evolve that, or Super Rod that guy back. You'll Hilda for that guy, Artisan for another Darumaka, and then for the next 2 turns, you can just Night Stretcher this guy back, and you have double, or like even triple Darumaka. And you're probably not gonna, Darmanitan, you're not gonna need triple Darmanitan. You'll probably only need 2 to close out the game, but it's really strong. And against Gholdengo, same thing. It is a very strong attacker. 1 reversal energy also really helps the deck out, because, well, now you can just slap on a reversal energy onto Darmanitan and just actually attack with Flame Body Cannon. Another thing that people miss a lot is like, well, okay, cool, Darmanitan's great, but how are you attaching to it, right? You don't have any energy acceleration other than Ends Point Up. Well, that's all we need, because remember, lots of people think Ends Point Up only goes to Dark Pokemon. It can go to any Ends Pokemon. It can go to the Darumaka. It can go to the Darmanitan. You can attach that, and since Backdraft counts as 2 colorless energy, you can manual attach, Ends Point Up, bam, Darmanitan going attacking, right? So it's very easy to set him up, and he has a very high damage cap in the matchups that you need him to. If Gholdengo has 5 energy in the discard pile, you're one-shotting them, you're doing 300 damage to them, right? Which is really nice. So yeah, it's just a really strong attack and just a really good deck in general. Like, you don't even, let's say Gholdengo is trying to play smart and they're not discarding energies, right? You can then go Flame Body Cannon. You can do 180 to the active Dengo. You can knock out something like a baby, what is that thing called? Gimmighoul. And then you can go ahead and just next turn swing, KO this guy. Or even go for a second Flame Body Cannon, KO this guy, and KO another thing, and you're down to 4 prize cards, right? And then you can close the game. You're down to 2 prize cards. You've taken 4, and then you can close out the game with like a Pekarunt, right? Because if your opponent has taken 5 prize cards, then it's doing 300 damage, which is a great attack. I mean, it's 2 energy, same thing, you're just gonna go ends point up, energy switch, onto the Peck, and then bam, there you go. You have to manual attach as well, but it's really easy to do. The thing is, like, these combos might sound difficult, but if you play the deck, you'll realize these combos aren't difficult to do towards the end of the game. Like, you have your entire game that you're just building, especially like with things like Clutch, where you're buying yourself time. You have so much time to actually discard all these cards that you don't need at the end of the game, and then just make sure the deck is thinned to whatever you need so that you know what you're drawing into, right? And something else that is really nice here is the Pal Pad. I found myself using Pal Pad 3 out of the 3 games yesterday. I was always Pal Padding back Boss's Orders. And then I would know it's guaranteed, because if I get Iono'd, no matter what they Iono into me, I know that since it's 5 cards in deck and I have 2 Zoroarks in play, I can get to a Boss's Orders and I will close out the game. So it lets you set up quite a few checkmate scenarios, and I genuinely think you guys should try the deck. I think the deck is really good. And if we take a look at the decks right now, Dragapult. So obviously these are the online. I'll show you what the online win rates look like, and they don't look good. But that's because of the deck list, number one, and like for example, Ceruledge 29%. But that's because these lists just aren't as good, I'd say, as Pipers. A lot of these are outdated lists and don't really have a good answer to Ceruledge, right? Whereas in reality, you do have a pretty damn good answer to Ceruledge. You really do have a solid answer into the Ceruledge. So what matchups do we beat here? Well, we beat Dragapult Dusknoir, we beat Gardevoir, Grimmsnarl Frostlass is pretty 50-50, we beat Charizard Pidgeot, I'd say, Ceruledge we beat, Gardevoir Jellicent we beat, Lunatone Goldengo is like 50-50, I'd say. It's like, you definitely can beat it, but you definitely can lose to it. The thing is, this deck needs energy in the bin, right? It's not like old Goldengo, where they can kind of get away with holding all the energy and just discarding a few every single turn, just taking 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and closing out with a few big one-shots once it doesn't matter anymore. This one, the only way to find energy is by actually ending up with energy in the bin so that you can grab it back later on. And a lot of the draw engine requires the Lunatone Solrock, right? And for that draw engine, you discard an energy, right? So it's very easy to end up one-shotting them as well. Mega Absol can be a little bit scary, but it's definitely very, very winnable. In fact, I haven't lost to it yet either. Alakazam Dunsparce, it's winnable. Okay, this is out of all of them that I would say your worst matchup. The only one that I don't think you really can win is Raging Bolt Ogerpon. This is probably the only matchup that I would say is not good. It's really not good. It's very difficult. Obviously, if you're playing something like a Defiance Band, maybe that could help with Flame Body Cannon one-shotting stuff now, but it's just a really difficult matchup. Terrabox is also fine, right? Terrabox is a perfectly fine matchup. The only one that I would definitely say is difficult is the Raging Bolt Ogerpon. Everything else over here is really, really good. If we go back to the top 10 decks, like actual top 10 decks, it's basically the same stuff, but yeah, like we mentioned, Gardevoir good, Dragapult good, Goldengo 50-50, Mega Absol good, Marnie's 50-50, Charizard 50-50, but I'd say a little bit favored for us. Ceruledge is good, Terrabox is good, Raging Bolt is bad, right? This is a pretty good, like, rate of winning, I would say. And look, you could say I'm wrong, but I think this is in my own personal experience with these matchups. And also remember, Zoroark is a difficult deck to play, and when it's piloted by good players and piloted by players that know what they're doing, it gets really good finishes, right? Like, it's had a few like falters, but last week we saw 2 top 8s, Gabriel Fernandez, Piper Lapine, 3rd and 8th respectively, right? Really good. The week before that in Belo Horizonte, it didn't really do much. I'm gonna sneeze, so give me a tactical timeout. I lied, I guess. Sick. The week before that, Aiden Kuss, 10th over at Milwaukee. And then, obviously, we all know that it actually won over in Pittsburgh, right? First place. So, the deck has been putting up, ever since the World Championships, it's been putting up decent numbers, right? For a deck that has, like, the meta share of 2.52%, it is putting up really good numbers, right? Joltik Box is putting up similar numbers, like, similar, like, representation to, what is that thing called? To Zoroark. But it has nowhere near as the same amount of excess, right? Like, look at that. It's just, it's not nearly as good. It's got a 5th place, and it's got a 4th place. Sorry, a 3rd place over in Belo Horizonte, right? That's it. Over at Lily, 67th, right? 6-7. Just clocked it now. Anyway, but you see what I mean? Zoroark, definitely, while played when by good players, it's a really, really good deck. And if you understand, I'm not saying like you have to be a good player to play this deck well. I just think you have to put the time into it. There's not a lot of people that are like, no-lifing Zoroark. There's a lot of people that are no-lifing Dragapult. A lot of people that are no-lifing things like Goldengo and Gardevoir, right? So of course those decks are gonna have good like representation and also good placements because lots of people are just hyper fixating on those decks. But yeah, Zoroark's really good. I think I'm going to be playing it a lot more moving forward. I think the deck is really fun, and it is really good, and it's definitely going to be one of my potential decks to look at if I win the lotto for the Champions League. That is something I'm going for. I finally registered for the Aichi Champions League. We just have to wait for the lottery 6,500 player tournament. If I do get in, then expect a lot more like actual gameplay streams because I will be playing a lot. What is up with my face? Why is it so? What's happening? What's the? Am I having an allergic reaction to something? All right. Anyway, I'll go figure that out. Peace.